No matter what you choose to believe in though, the one thing that's true here is that Joe gives the softest, most patty cake style of interviews to a select group of people. And a lot of those people were named in the Epstein list. And Donald Trump's a great example of this. Like during that Donald Trump interview, which now has over 61 million views on YouTube alone, Joe Rogan never even brought up Epstein or the suspiciousness surrounding Epstein's death, which is a topic that Joe's talked about on hundreds of other episodes before this one.
And it happened during Trump's presidency, and he was Trump's best buddy. But again, Joe Rogan, I believe, was either paid off or is a part of the CIA, and they were trying to get Trump elected, man. And he had him on here and had this patty cake interview with him, bro. He didn't push back on anything, none of the crazy stuff he said in the past, grab him by the pussy, all this shit, bro. He just talked to him like he was a buddy, man. But again, he doesn't want to scare off his powerful guests. So you give them hard interviews and they're not going to want to come back. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be watching every JRE guest in the Epstein files. I don't know who they're going to be pulling up in this video. Joe Rogan has had over like 1,200 guests on his show. A lot of them have been very important celebrities and political figures. So only people I know who might be in the files that I know he's had on there is Trump and Epstein. I don't think he's ever had Bill Gates or somebody like that come on the podcast, but I'm very interested to see which guests are in the Epstein file. So let's go ahead and get straight into the video.
Man, I don't mean to do this every time I'm on, but you have such a crazy power that if you're not careful, folks from deep, dark wells of perspective are gonna infiltrate your shit because people are gonna like try to exploit you. That's the main thing, is like people recognizing what you are, who have political agendas, will infiltrate your shit and then start blowing out their radioactivity into the world, right? That's a fear.
Like radium.
If y'all don't know who this is Duncan Trussell. He's a comedian. He's also the voice for the Netflix show Midnight Gospel. He's a super funny guy.
Alright, so now that people have had a few days to digest the millions of emails and documents linked to Jeffrey Epstein, it's now starting to appear that Joe Rogan's had a lot of people on his show that are now confirmed to have been closely linked to the predator and criminal himself, which has definitely left a lot of people scratching their heads. I mean, it's one thing to have maybe one or two guys linked to Epstein on his show, but when you realize that Joe Rogan's platformed more than 9 different people and counting at this point, who
9
were named in the files, sometimes thousands of different times, it all certainly raises more than a few questions.
He's had people on there that have been in the files thousands of times now. That's crazy. I know some people believe that Joe Rogan is compromised by the CIA. And, you know, the CIA works with Mossad. People think Epstein was Mossad. So some of the links kind of make sense, I guess.
And it's not like anyone's accusing Joe Rogan of secretly going to Epstein's island or anything, but the very fact that he's had so many of these weirdos on his podcast just proves how accurate Duncan Trussell was in the opening clip there. Like, all of these creepy billionaires flock to Joe's podcast because they feel a sense of safety and protection with Joe. Not only because he never challenges these guys on anything or even questions their links to Epstein, but also because he's so easily manipulated and will believe just about anything you say to him, especially if you have power over him.
I don't think he's easily manipulated. I think he just likes to feed into the nonsense that some people say on the show in order to make conversation. I think Joe is extremely intelligent. I don't think he's easily manipulated.
Peter Thiel, for example, who's a billionaire tech investor and co-founder of Palantir and PayPal, admitted to Joe Rogan that he met Jeffrey Epstein back in 2014, about 8 years after Epstein was initially arrested for all of the despicable and nasty stuff that he did to children.
Okay. Let's say he met him and someone introduced him to him. Did he further that relationship? Was he hanging out with him? Did he keep talking to him? I hope they go into this because that's what really matters. You can meet anybody. Anybody can introduce you to somebody. That doesn't mean anything. But after he was convicted of all those crimes, did you maintain a relationship with this guy? That's the real question.
You know, I met Epstein a few times as well, and I think...
How'd you get introduced?
It was Reid Hoffman in Silicon Valley introduced us in 2014, but it was basically
when you were introduced to him, how was he described to you?
He was described as one of the smartest tax people in the world.
Interesting.
And I probably was my moral weakness that I.
Well, how
wasn't
could
paying
you have known
taxes.
back then? He had never been arrested.
No, this was 2014. It was post arrest.
Oh, so his arrest was the first arrest, right?
Yeah,
Which was like 2000.
07, 08.
Okay.
He made sure to clarify that. No. I knew what was up.
Upon learning this, though, Rogan doesn't even think twice before making excuses for Thiel, saying that he knows a lot of people who were tricked by Epstein, instantly letting Thiel off the hook.
But I thought he always had good judgment in people.
When the shit went down and Epstein gets arrested for the second time, where you're like, oh, well, there you go.
I've thought about it. I thought a lot about it as a result. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bro, no, you're supposed to say fuck this guy. What the heck? He had to think about that for a second. He's like, I don't really care. If y'all don't know, Peter Thiel is supposed to be known as like the expert in the Antichrist. He's like he said, one of the co-founders of Palantir, and gay billionaire for whatever that's worth. But yeah, I guess he didn't have too much to do with Epstein because Epstein was getting little girls and not little boys. So I don't know.
I'm sure. Jesus Christ. Well, he tricked a lot of people. I know a lot of people that met that guy.
So that right there is the very reason why so many of these elites just love going on Joe's podcast.
He tried to give him an out. He said, yeah, he tricked a lot of people, insinuating that Peter Thiel was tricked. Peter Thiel didn't say I was tricked, bro. He said this happened afterwards. Joe Rogan's giving this man an out.
Because Joe's best friends with whoever's across the table with him that day, and he was probably so starstruck by Thiel and his connections that he never even thought to second guess the guy on his relationships with Jeffrey Epstein. Now that the files are out though, it seems pretty clear that Thiel was a lot closer to Epstein than he led Joe on to believe. I mean, there's a bunch of back and forth emails between them about having dinners together in various places, and there's even one where Thiel suggests meeting him on a quote-unquote island, which could very well be the island, if you know what I mean. There's of course nothing immediately acknowledging the crimes or anything, but I would venture to say that doing business with a convicted sex criminal for personal enrichment generally means you're a bad guy, not to mention being in regular communication with them. But of course, Rogan doesn't bother looking even an inch further into any of that, which is why a lot of people criticize Joe as an interviewer. Like the guy can't shut up about Epstein and all the stuff surrounding him, but as soon as he has someone on the show that's literally sat down and had one-on-one conversations with the guy, Joe immediately brushes over it and then switches the topic.
I know a lot of people that met that guy. He got a lot of celebrities to come to his house for parties and things.
Well, I think it was. I think a lot of it was this strange commentary on, I know there was some secret club, secret society you could be part of.
Right,
and
of course.
Again, it wasn't explicit, but that was the vague vibe of the whole thing.
People love those stupid things. They love like exclusive clubs that very few people. Look at the fucking Soho House. Like, look at that stupid thing. I mean, you just go to a place that you have to be a member to go to, and everybody wants to be a member. Oh my God, gotta get it. And then you get like the Malibu Soho House. It's different from the other ones. You have to have membership only there.
See, Peter Thiel's talking about being a part of this club. So you met Epstein way later after the cases, and you were still talking to him so you could be a part of this club. That's what it sounds like to me.
And you see, Peter Thiel is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to JRE guests that have been involved with Epstein. Of course, there are the big ones like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, but it actually goes way deeper than that. Like, believe it or not, Joe's literally platformed Epstein's personal chef, Adam Perry Lang, who worked for Epstein for 4 years straight back in the late 90s, flying with him on his private jet to cook for him at Epstein's various different properties, including the infamous Epstein Island. And this was all public information prior to that podcast, so it was pretty strange that Joe didn't bring that up once. There was even an article written about it. And of course, there could have been some kind of agreement that Joe signed to not mention it with him during the podcast, but nonetheless, it's all very fishy.
What's happening, brother? How are you?
It's not that fishy, though, honestly, because if you think about it, he brings on the conspiracy people to talk about conspiracies and go super deep into it, and like, sure, that's a fun, flowing conversation like he does with all his guests. But then you bring on somebody who might have done some bad stuff with Epstein, and you don't want to provide any pushback because you don't want to scare other people from coming on to the podcast. That's the biggest thing. If he starts giving these people crazy pushback And people start thinking, damn, I don't want to go on Joe Rogan because it's going to end up like an Oprah Winfrey situation where they're asking me to come out the closet or something on live on air. So it makes sense that he doesn't push back. He's not trying to scare other guests from coming on. I don't agree with this. I think if you're going to be bringing these guests on, you should be asking these questions because this is what the public wants to know. And it's pretty important. You're inviting people who are friends with a PDF file.
Good to be here.
Good to have you. I have enjoyed your restaurant many times. This is my favorite steak restaurant in all of Los Angeles.
Thank you.
It's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you in here because this is a really crazy time for restaurants. And I mean, that's basically... That's the gist of it. This is a crazy time.
It's bananas. It's absolutely crazy.
And then there's Dr. Peter Attia, who was apparently Epstein's private doctor and shared thousands of emails with Jeffrey, which of course are extremely twisted. But I'll touch on that later more in the video. Just know that as of right now, there are about 9 or 10 people who went on Joe's show that are named in the files, which is just a mind-boggling number of people. As weird as that may be though, there's not really one single answer to it that people can agree on. You know, some people theorize that Joe's been bought out and paid for by the upper crust of society, or even the CIA.
Makes complete sense. I agree with this.
And others think that it's merely a coincidence. No matter what you choose to believe in though, the one thing that's true here is that Joe gives the softest, most patty cake style of interviews to a select group of people. And a lot of those people were named in the Epstein list. And Donald Trump's a great example of this. Like during that Donald Trump interview, which now has over 61 million views on YouTube alone, Joe Rogan never even brought up Epstein or the suspiciousness surrounding Epstein's death, which is a topic that Joe's talked about on hundreds of other episodes before this one.
And it happened during Trump's presidency, and he was Trump's best buddy. But again, Joe Rogan, I believe, was either paid off or is a part of the CIA, and they were trying to get Trump elected, man. And he had him on here and had this patty cake interview with him, bro. He didn't push back on anything, none of the crazy stuff he said in the past, grab him by the pussy, all this shit, bro. He just talked to him like he was a buddy, man. But again, he doesn't want to scare off his powerful guests. So you give them hard interviews and they're not going to want to come back.
Basically just gave Trump the easiest interview of his life.
One of the beautiful things about you is that you freeball. Like you get out and you do these huge events and you're just talking and you're making. We've highlighted you on the show many times when you did this Biden impression where he's walking around, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's funny. It's stand up. It's funny stuff.
Look at him. He's sucking his dick, bro. Nah, bro. He's giving him that sloppy top. What the hell? His boy's glazing the hell out of him.
When he did this Biden impression where he's walking around, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's funny. It's stand up. It's funny.
Look at his face. He's like, yeah, glazing me, bro.
Funny stuff. But it's like you and you were making fun of Elon one time. You were doing an Elon impression. It's great. You have like comedic instincts. Like when you said to Hillary, you'd be in jail. Like it's great timing. And I think
it's funny. You need at least the attitude of a comedian when you're doing this business. This is a very dangerous business. First of all, it's a very tough business.
It's the most dangerous business.
It's the most, well, for a job?
Yes.
So the softball interview basically greenlit all of the cronies to go on Joe's show, as Joe's spine basically disappears whenever someone in the Trump administration appears on the show. Like a couple of short months after that Trump podcast, Joe had Kash Patel on, where he let Kash basically lie to his face and his millions of listeners about everything having to do with the Epstein files and Epstein's suspicious death.
Which is crazy because before Kash Patel was put on as a director of the FBI, he was literally like one of the biggest Epstein file conspiracy theorists, basically saying that they need to release the Epstein files, who's all in them. He was like the head guy for talking about the Epstein files. And then as soon as he became director of the FBI, he started saying there was no Epstein files, nothing needs to be released, we've given all the information that we could give. Basically completely backtracking. And then now, as we've seen recently, the Epstein files have come out and all of that was a lie. Crazy stuff.
Elon and Trump seem to be in a bit of a spat, Joe. You want to check the tweet that Elon just put out a little bit ago?
Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day. Jesus Christ.
Which is crazy because you're in the Epstein files too. You just thought it wasn't going to come out that you were begging to go to the island. You just didn't go to the island because you weren't cool enough, bro. That's what we come to find out. You think you're free because you didn't technically go? Bro, you were trying to go and you were asking to turn up and have a party and you didn't care about the ratio. What?
I'm not participating in any of that conversation
What is
between
he?
Elon
Have a
and Trump.
nice day, DJT. Someone should take his phone away.
They're going back and forth about different
Someone
things.
should take his phone away. Bro, he just said that the president's in the Epstein files and you're talking about someone should take his phone away. What? What?
Listen,
Yeah.
How does he know? Does he know that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files? Or does he have access to the Epstein files?
I don't know how he would, but I'm just staying out of the Trump Elon thing. That's way outside
What
my
the
lane.
fuck are they doing?
I know my lane, and that ain't it.
I just don't.
I know my lane, bro. You're the director of the FBI. What do you mean? You are in control of the Epstein files.
I mean, what did you think before you got in office? Did you think that Epstein was murdered?
No.
No suspicion at all of it?
There's just no way that you could have run an op and had people go into that cell and not have any video of it and not have any people come out and say, hey, yeah, I saw that guy. He shouldn't have been there, the guard or this guy. There's just no access points into places like this in the detention center he was in, which I've been in.
Yeah, he's lying through his teeth.
And no, Kash Patel was not named in the files, but he's directly responsible for the delay of their release. And he literally lied under oath about their existence late last year, which is now making millions of people online call for his arrest.
Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday.
This is exactly what I was saying. He was out here saying that there was nobody on the list, that there were no real Epstein files, and then come to find out there's over 3 million documents that get released. What?
That he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
So Kash Patel is Trump's personal shoe shiner. And of course, he manipulated Joe into believing everything he said about the Epstein files and Epstein's death. And just to be clear, Patel isn't in the files, but this just shows you why a bunch of these fishy, mega-rich guys feel safe going on to Joe's podcast. One guest that did entertain Joe's theories around Jeffrey Epstein's death, though, was none other than Barry Weiss, who is a New York Times opinion writer turned independent commentator and is married to a woman who was just named in the Epstein files, Nellie Bowles, who actually went back and forth with Epstein and seemingly met up with him a bunch of times accompanied by Barry Weiss. And so when Joe brings up Epstein's death, she seems to entertain the conspiracy theory a little, but then quickly makes it seem not even that important. She even admits to knowing a bunch of people who hung out with Epstein when he was alive, saying that everyone knew about his crimes and didn't do anything about it, which of course just flies right over Joe's shiny bald head.
Can we just agree that he was murdered?
I
If you
think
had,
that he was murdered.
if you had all your chips on the table,
Yes.
like Barry, you got to go all in. What are you gonna do?
There are too many coincidences
Yeah.
to make it plausible that Jeffrey Epstein.
No one knows.
No one knows that.
No,
but what
we
people
don't know.
knew, no, meaning.
Someone must
But
know.
what I was going to say is like,
But see, look how he can have these conversations with these conspiracy theorists, but when the actual people who might have been involved come on, he doesn't say shit. This is like clear as day. Joe Rogan is compromised. He's definitely compromised.
you know, I've talked to enough people that knew him, met him, went to parties at his house, and said like everyone knew this about him. It was like a Harvey Weinstein thing,
Right.
you know, in the sense of the young women,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or in the sense that everyone knew about Bill Cosby that came into contact with
Yes.
him. Like there were things that were just agreed to never speak about. You know,
Right.
it's like it's just absolutely sick. I was when the story broke about him hanging himself, I was obsessed for like a few days, but then I had to move on to other
course,
things. Like
that's
the
how-
world is a big place.
That's what they're
Jews are
hoping
getting beaten
for.
in the streets. Yeah, but it's also like there actually are things that are more important to me than the
Yes.
story of Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
And I hope that there's some investigative journalist digging into the truth of what happened there.
But to be fair to Joe here, he honestly seems like he didn't know Barry's connection to Epstein during this podcast from 2020. But now that she's named in the files as her wife's quote-unquote babe by Epstein, and now that she just hired Dr. Peter Attia at CBS, who is deeply affiliated with Epstein, the whole thing just looks pretty bad for Joseph Rogan. And you already know he's terrified of addressing any of it. Speaking of Peter Attia, though, who's actually one of Joe's more frequent guests that seems to be more close to Joe than usual, he was also listed in the Epstein files, and it appears that he's way more screwed than even someone like Peter Thiel, as he's on record emailing Epstein that he quote-unquote can't tell anyone what Epstein does, along with saying that eating pussy is low carb, which is absolutely horrendous given the nature of Epstein's crimes. So Peter Attia probably lost his whole career due to the Epstein files, especially now that he's come out publicly and stated that he's ashamed of his affiliation with Epstein, straight up just admitting to being the guy's good pal. And being that he's actually sort of close to Joe Rogan, it just makes you wonder how Rogan will address it, if he will at all. I mean, Joe Rogan must be shitting his pants right now with how many friends of the podcast are being exposed before his very eyes. And remember, these are the files that Trump's Department of Justice were comfortable with making public. So there's certainly millions and millions of more incriminating things to be released.
And what's crazy is nothing's going to happen to these people. All of this incriminating evidence is being put out, and nothing's going to happen to these people. Watch. No one's going to do anything. People are going to forget about it after a few weeks, and life's going to go right back to being normal, man.
This is much deeper than you think. Of course, a bunch of the Joe Rogan fanboys are rushing to his defense right now, though, saying that Joe Rogan's had more than 1,200 different guests on his platform and that people are just cherry-picking, and that Joe would have guys like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Peter Thiel on, regardless of whether they were affiliated with Epstein or not. Which might be true, given that they're some of the biggest names in the world, but the fact that Jeffrey Epstein himself is now on record trying to get in contact with Joe Rogan just shows you how safe Jeffrey and all his goons felt in Joe Rogan's presence.
No, that's crazy. Jeffrey Epstein trying to get on the Joe Rogan experience. The thing that makes that actually interesting is recently in the files, an interview came out with, I think, Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein, and it was trying to make Jeffrey Epstein look like a normal person. They had this whole thing plotted out. It's talked about in the emails, where they were trying to make Jeffrey Epstein have like a redemption arc, make him look like a normal person, make him look like a genius, and basically like seem like he was just misunderstood. And they planned out this whole interview and things that they would talk about in the interview and how it was going to be shot in order to bring Jeffrey Epstein into a better light. And I wouldn't be surprised if they had a podcast tour planned to basically get him on Joe Rogan and other podcasts to add to this whole repainting the Jeffrey Epstein narrative. So this makes a lot of sense.
And this info was pulled from emails between Epstein and a man by the name of Lawrence Krauss, who after going on JRE in 2017, emailed Rogan about the opportunity to get in contact with Jeffrey, which apparently Rogan was timid about. Regardless though, they've got to feel like—
Timid? Bro, this was after the cases came out. What do you mean timid?
Like Rogan's on their side or something like that, right? Like they must feel a sense of security around the man, given that he never brings up anything involving Epstein's crimes around the associates that he interviews.
Also, a lot of the associates are Jewish, which Joe Rogan is. I'm not saying there's a Jewish conspiracy or anything like that, but I would imagine them feeling more comfortable around one of their own people.
For instance, during one of the many podcast episodes Joe Rogan shot with Elon Musk, Musk conveniently listed everyone he thought was going to be on it and left himself right off of it. Which, now knowing that he apparently desperately tried to get on Epstein's island and was found to be too dorky to make the list, just seems super pathetic.
It's so obvious.
Yes. Like known Epstein clients who are obviously extremely powerful, powerful politically and very wealthy, are Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, and Reid Hoffman,
and you, and Donald Trump. But you don't want to consider yourself just because you didn't get invited to the island.
And some others too, but those three. So, why was Reid Hoffman so intent on destroying Trump?
Yeah, how do you put someone in jail and you don't even name the clients? That sounds kind of insane.
I think, yes, it would. Yes, because
it's just stunning that they've been able to hold it back for so long.
Yeah, this is what money and power does, bro. What do you mean? That's the same way he got out of, bro. in my opinion, Jeffrey Epstein is not dead. They did not break in there and kill him. He had enough money and enough power, and Trump was in the presidency, and Trump was his best friend, that they got in there and swapped him out with a body double, or they just straight up got in there and broke him out and said that he got killed. But there's no way they killed this man, bro. He's living free somewhere. A lot of these people, when they commit crazy crimes, they'll get whole new facial surgery, everything. I'm pretty sure Jeffrey Epstein is out and about living his life somewhere, probably in Israel.
It's really kind of amazing.
Yes.
Like when people say that people can't keep secrets, what the fuck are you talking about? Look at this.
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of these things are not like it's common knowledge, but we don't actually have the proof.
Right.
So the proof is there. I mean, there's lots of videos.
So yeah, I really wonder if Joe will ever talk about Elon being in the files. Based off how Elon's tweeting like a maniac about it and defending himself way too much on his own app though, he'll probably go on to JRE soon here to clear the air, which will definitely make for another video for this channel since it will indeed be super awkward. Aside from that though, when you step back and look at the whole picture here and consider the sheer number of people involved with Epstein that went on to Joe Rogan, something strange seems to be going on that a lot of people think is much deeper than just a coincidence. Like, Rogan's built his entire brand on being the guy who asks questions, who doesn't trust institutions, and who's skeptical of power. And
he's literally the podcast for conspiracy theorists. He has conspiracy theorists for every type of conspiracy ever on this show. But when this stuff comes up with the people who are directly involved, he doesn't ask any questions. Bro, come on, man. Y'all can't take this serious. This isn't a podcast. This is a pedcast. Pedocast.
Who loves to entertain conspiracies, especially when they involve Jeffrey Epstein. Yet, when that exact world of power, money, and influence sits across from him in person, his skepticism seems to just disappear. And it's not like Joe gives this type of treatment to just about everyone, you know? I mean, I'm sure you all remember how he screamed at that primatologist who called into the show years ago, who infuriated Joe by simply disagreeing with him about the existence of a fake, cryptid species of chimpanzee, the Bondo ape, which is just wild if you haven't seen that already.
Allison from Florida is going to challenge you. Allison, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a primatologist. There's no such thing as a Bondo ape.
You're a fucking idiot. Go online and look it up. You're a what? What do you do? It's a new discovery. You're a primatologist? Well, look it up. You're not current. Pay attention. Go online and look it up.
Yeah, this is a student.
Yeah, you've learned some shit from the college. When did you graduate?
I have a PhD from
When
2000.
did you graduate? When?
From 2000.
Yeah, when was the last time you got online and researched primates? Have you ever looked at any of the new discoveries? Have you looked at any of Carl Amon's work?
Yeah, I've been to Africa.
What are you laughing at? Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? I'll tell you why you're laughing, because you don't have a point. So you're trying to, oh, you're ridiculous. I have a PhD. Meanwhile, there's all sorts of photographs of this primate, this gigantic chimpanzee. Not only that, it's on National Geographic, stupid. NationalGeographic.com. CNN.com, stupid. No. There's bones, there's tissue samples, there's hair, there's fecal matter. There's all sorts of different things. Now
This has to be a really old episode because I've never seen Joe Rogan with this type of energy. I don't think for any of his guests over the last few years. Like him going this hard, like again, he should be going this hard on the people linked to Epstein, all the pedos and whatnot. But this has to be like some super old Joe Rogan energy. And I think from the clip I saw before, it looked like it was one of those super old episodes. It's not even the current studio. So I wouldn't put this into the argument that he's protecting them and he's not doing pushback, but yeah.
Map the DNA of this animal already?
Oh, please.
We mean, oh, please, stupid. You haven't paid attention to it at all. These are legitimate scientists and primatologists that are in the Congo studying this thing. And you don't know. Yet you're calling up. You've done zero research on this. You haven't looked into it at all. You're telling me we know all the animals that are in the world? Are you telling me we know all the animals in this gigantic, several thousand-mile long, intense rainforest?
So I just wonder where that spark was when Joe did dozens of podcasts with a bunch of Jeffrey Epstein's friends and associates. But no matter which camp you're in, whether you think Rogan's compromised and bought out by the CIA, or just straight up a famous guy that has a bunch of billionaires on his podcast. What the files truly expose is the limits of Rogan's so-called journalistic curiosity. And as more names, emails, and connections continue to surface, it's going to become harder and harder for Rogan to keep pretending and beating around the bush. Like, he can't just call his critics mentally ill losers like he did with Bert Kreischer anymore.
Instead of like saying, I hope that guy gets hit by a bus, fuck him. All these slobs that are on Twitter and that are talking shit about comedians and are angry about comedians, they have one thing in common. They're almost all failures. They're either failures or they're extremely mediocre.
Yeah.
They're in the middle of like mediocrity. No one's got them as their favorite comedian. No one's got them as their favorite podcaster. No one's got them as anything. They just don't do that well. So what do? They're attacking people. And the most anxiety-ridden, fucked up, mentally ill people I know are these lazy slobs that are online all day complaining about people.
So yeah, pretty crazy stuff, and honestly, by the time this video comes out, I bet there will be way more JRE guests named in the files that I still haven't covered yet.
Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below. Do y'all think Joe Rogan is compromised? Do y'all think that he's been doing a good job interviewing people related to the Epstein files? And who else do y'all think is going to be linked to Epstein that has been on the Joe Rogan podcast? That's it. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, y'all.